Joy while it lasts, Candace. Fame is fleeting.
But the internet is forever.
Have you ever thought about just what is going on in those silent characters' heads? What do you think they'd say if they finally opened up? Take Phineas and Ferb, where Ferb speaking at all is practically considered as a national event. But we'll get back to him. Have you ever wondered what silent cartoon characters' first words actually were? Yeah, definitely not that. Today, we're looking at the cartoon characters who barely said a word for most of their runs and changed the whole thing the moment that they finally did. One of them on this list is so unexpected that it will basically rewrite everything you knew about the character. What the hell are we waiting for? Let's dive in. Starting with the one that we teased earlier, Ferb Fletcher is the quiet half of the Phineas and Ferb duo. While Phineas is constantly talking, planning and pitching ideas, Ferb is just standing there next to him, looking completely unbothered. Also, he's the one who does the actual engineering work, while Phineas is blabbering all the time. He's kind of the marketing guy.
It seems to run on a quantum front loading system. Can the new frame support that? Hang on, I'll bring it down.
Ferb has the kind of calm that only comes from either extreme intelligence or a complete lack of interest in small talk. It's better to ask the man himself. Is that wrong, Ferb?
Ferb?
Fans came to understand pretty quickly that Ferb was silent because he was selective of the moments that he spoke at, and that distinction matters because it means every time he did open his mouth, the whole show leaned in to hear what he was going to say.
Why on earth are you all covered in mud?
Because she's a tire spinning, gear grinding, clutch burning, backfiring, paint trading, redlining, overheating, throttle stomping, truck driving girl.
His first line in the show came after Phineas said that Perry the platypus doesn't do much because platypuses are not particularly interesting animals. Ferb's response to Phineas was immediate and completely calm, saying,
Well, he is a platypus. They don't do much.
They're the only mammals to lay eggs.
That was it. He spits out words that were slightly humbling to Phineas. Then, after that, Ferb would rarely speak, and when he did, it would either be the smartest or the funniest thing anyone had said in the entire episode.
Glad you like the card, Mom.
It's a simple postmodern fusion of origami and pop-up.
His silence was related to patience, and the show totally respected that enough to never break it without a reason, which is a discipline most writers don't have when they have a good character on their hands. What makes Ferb's silence so specifically satisfying is that it has never limited him in the show. The contrast with Phineas is so clearly drawn that you stop expecting him to talk and start just waiting to see when he will start talking.
Ferb?
Platypus monsters are the only monsters to lay eggs.
One sentence from Ferb carries the weight of everything he didn't say in the previous 20 minutes, which is a trick that very few characters in any show have ever been able to pull off this consistently. He's clearly a man of action rather than words.
World peace?
No, this one down here.
Local boy gets harmonica. Hey, great picture.
They say the step you're about to take is the beginning of your greatest adventure yet.
Little corny there, bro.
But while Ferb's silence was always clearly deliberate, the one coming had a very different reason for keeping quiet. Technically, you could hear him the whole time while he was speaking, but you could just never quite make out what he was saying. Kenny McCormick has been one of the 4 main boys in South Park since the very beginning of the show. And for most of that run, the only thing anyone could confirm about his voice is that it existed somewhere beneath that orange hoodie, and that he was probably saying something that you would not be able to repeat. His speech was muffled completely by the parka that he wore in every episode, to the point where understanding Kenny required subtitles, just like these.
Children?
Whoa! Wow, she's pretty. You can say that again.
The muffled voice he made became a running gag in the show, but it also gave Kenny a specific kind of mystery that the other boys never had. You always knew what the other boys were thinking, especially Eric Cartman, but with Kenny, that was always a question. And the question mattered more than it probably should have, because underneath that hoodie, Kenny was actually one of the more thoughtful characters in the group. The show played these contradictions quietly for years. When Kenny was talking, the viewers of the show could not understand him, but his friends did. And the gap between those things gave Kenny a presence that was entirely his own. He was the unknowable one on the show. And the cast members used that wisely for a long time before they ever gave him a proper voice like the others. The final break came in the South Park movie. During the film's climax, Kenny removes his hoodie completely and then looks at his friends and says goodbye to them, quite clearly and without any muffling while he's saying it, before ascending to what the film presents as It's the first and only time in the show's history where his full face and actual voice are both revealed and also at the same moment. And the fact that it happens during a genuinely emotional beat makes it land differently than if they had just done it for a laugh. Fans have been speculating about what Kenny really sounded like for years, and the answer turned out to be that he sounded like a fairly normal kid, which is somehow both a relief and a little bit disappointing, because he returned in the next episode as if none of it had ever happened, with his hoodie back on and being completely unbothered about it. Kenny's break was totally unexpected, but the next one on this list is something else entirely, because it didn't just reveal his voice, it revealed a whole personality that nobody had any idea was hiding underneath him all this time. For most of his Looney Tunes run, Wile E. Coyote communicated entirely through his actions and signs he drew on boards. He usually writes on boards, and it was thought that those actions made his pursuit his entire identity. He used no words or anything related to that. He just had an unbroken commitment to catching the roadster, which he was never going to catch. He's also seen using equipment that was always going to explode. Viewers understood him completely through visual comedy alone, which is a genuine skill in animation, and not speaking a single word gave him a kind of elevated drama that worked beautifully against the chaos that he caused in his schemes. There's something that clearly distinguishes Wile E from any other character, and that is he always keeps trying hard and never once stops to explain himself.
Yes. I can easily understand why it should puzzle you that a person of my intelligence, IQ 207, super genius, should devote his valuable time chasing this ridiculous...
Apart from this time. Then in an episode called Operation Rabbit, Wile E shocked fans by introducing himself using actual words.
How do you do? Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Coyote, Wile E. Coyote. I am a genius by trade.
He then proceeded to explain at length that he was more muscular, more cunning, faster and larger than Bugs, and that he was going to eat him.
No, I intend to pursue, capture, and eat this rabbit. It's as simple as that.
His looks and voice were the absolute opposites. His voice was actually smooth and kind of upper class. What made it so striking to all the fans was that the things he did with Roadrunner had always suggested that Wile E was single-minded. And here he was delivering a full formal introduction with the confidence of someone who had absolutely no reason to be this confident.
To introduce myself, my name is Coyote, Wile E. Coyote, genius.
He only ever spoke, or words only ever came out of his mouth when facing Bugs, but keeping his silence against the Roadrunner entirely, which could be a deliberate act that he did. The thing about Wile E is his talking just caused him another humiliation, apart from the one that he receives from the Roadster.
That there is nothing left in the bag.
There isn't? I don't like to disagree with no genius, Doc, but there is.
As always, he fell for the oldest trick in the book.
Well...
Both versions of him talking and not talking end the same way, but the talking one stings more, and that's entirely his own fault for opening his mouth. That said, Wile E at least had the option to speak when the situation called for it. The next one, the moment that they broke their silence felt genuinely unnatural. Tom and Jerry built one of the most successful comedic relationships in cartoon history, without either of them needing to say a single word. The comedy they performed was entirely physical. It was the one that crosses every language barrier, because pain is universally funny when it's happening to a cartoon cat. And also to a cartoon mouse. In the show, Tom's usually scheming around Jerry, and Jerry is more often than not outwitting Tom. And then something would explode or collapse, and the whole thing would reset for the episode. What makes their silence so specifically interesting was how much the two of them could communicate without it. Tom's frustration and complete inability to accept that he's already lost before the plan even starts, all of that is expressed through his angry and grumpy face that he makes after receiving the consequences of his actions. And Jerry, on the other side, doesn't only react, he also performs. He knows exactly what he's doing to Tom, and he enjoys it while he's doing it, which completely comes through in the way he moves, and the little smirk he gives out. The characterization of the show is entirely based on the physicality that these two are performing. But in the movie, something unexpected took place. They both spoke.
Tom.
I'm Jerry.
You talked!
They both didn't believe what just happened.
Well, sure I talk. What do you think I am, a dummy?
You said it. I didn't.
Ah, you little pipsqueak. I oughta... Hey! How come you never spoke?
Even Tom asked Jerry, why didn't he speak all this time? And his reply was,
Well, there was nothing I wanted to say that I thought you'd understand. And there still isn't.
All right, that does it. You little... Boy, you get me...
They used full sentences back and forth, like two people having an actual conversation. It's a deeply strange thing to watch if you grew up with the show. Not because the voices are bad, but because the whole premise of the Tom and Jerry show is that they don't need to talk. Their relationship is built on continuous chases between them that never get resolved. And Tom and Jerry finally being able to speak implied perhaps the possibility of resolution, which is exactly what made everyone feel wrong about it. The show seemed to understand this, and both of them getting the chance to talk again from then on remained extremely rare across the rest of the series. Some characters perform well while they're silent, and Tom and Jerry are probably the clearest example of that in all of animation. The next character takes that even further, because for him, silence is the entire identity of its show. The Pink Panther is one of the purest examples of a silent character done completely right. He communicates everything he needs to through body language, and uses the most iconic theme music in cartoon history. The show was deliberately designed to work with no dialogue. You did not need to understand the slightest bit of English to watch the show, because there was nothing to understand. The images and the music told you everything you needed to understand. Whenever a bizarre thing is happening around him, he meets it with the same raised eyebrows and the same facial expressions. And that composure he holds is what makes him funny. The gap between how bad things are and how little he seems to mind is the whole thing about Pink Panther, and a voice would probably have collapsed that gap immediately. There's also something worth noting about how the Pink Panther handles the world around him, versus how most silent characters do. Him being silent does not bother him at all. Instead, he's elevated by it, because the silence reads as a decision that he made not to give a solitary damn. He has a completely different relationship with being silent, and it makes him a different category of character from everyone else on this list. The moment where he finally speaks came.
By any chance, have you seen any gophers with diamonds in? Can you imagine those fellas leaving things like this lying around?
He didn't see that coming. At this point, we can all agree the Pink Panther does not need words, and he never did. And the moments where words appeared out of his mouth felt like the writers forgot what made him interesting in the first place. It's crystal clear that the Pink Panther keeps quiet because the show was built that way from the beginning. The next one stayed silent for a completely different reason. You probably didn't see this name coming. While growing up, everyone watched The Land Before Time. The show was focused on Littlefoot and Sarah, while Spike was in the background quietly eating something. Spike is a Stegosaurus dinosaur, one of the 5 main young dinosaurs at the centre of the show Land Before Time, which is a franchise that began as a film and expanded into a long-running cartoon series. Spike is part of the core group from the very beginning of the show, being present in every episode, and he's well known for not saying a single word across the entire show, not even one. He's just simply there, present, without giving a comment on any of it.
Me flyer. Family maybe come down from high hills.
And Ducky's family are swimmers.
Wonder where Spike's family come from.
Wherever it was, it must have been a long walk.
Spike is completely aware of what's happening around him, it's just that he's unbothered by it. He communicates through sounds and expressions, even though he doesn't listen to any of them when food's involved.
You guys keep them busy. I'll save Sarah. Allie, no! It's too steep! Allie! Watch out! Wake up!
In one episode, Ducky adopts him almost immediately after they meet, and never stops speaking on his behalf, which Spike appears to find perfectly acceptable. She includes him in every conversation and celebrates his reactions with the same enthusiasm that she brings to everything in her life. The effect of that across the full series is that Spike feels completely present in the group, despite never saying a word.
That knows how to smile, how to do things in style. Take a sword.
He finally breaks his silence when Ducky was in great danger. He shouted immediately without any deliberation at the exact moment that was deeply needed of him. This is the first and closest moment that the show ever came to letting him speak. And that says a lot about Spike. Spike's silence throughout the show was just his personality, and the show never had enough reasons to leave it alone, even though the other dinosaurs approved that he can talk.
But Spike talks now, so he can tell you for himself. Go on, little brother.
The next one on this list is in a completely different situation, because her silence was something she was actively and deliberately choosing, which you wouldn't have guessed until the show finally let you see it. Maggie Simpson has been the youngest member of the Simpson family since the very first episode. And her silence has always been accepted as straightforward, because she's just a baby, and they say babies don't talk.
Close your eyes, start to yawn, pleasant dreams until the dawn.
Except for this one. And so Maggie is a baby on the show, where she's occasionally doing something remarkable that nobody around her notices, or even takes seriously. The family tries to get her to say her first words across multiple episodes and fails every time, which becomes its own kind of running gag.
Dad!
Maggie was very young. It's not like we got so attached to her.
Homer at one point even wanted Maggie to not talk so that she doesn't talk back to him like Bart and Lisa do, which is the kind of thing that I expect from Homer.
I was sitting there. I don't see your name on it. It's right there. Bart, don't write on the rug.
And for most of her run, that's exactly what she did on the show. She was more like a prop, something the show wheels into frame when it needs a visual or quick sight gag, and then parks her in the corner again, while the rest of the family gets on with their business.
Maggie doesn't talk by age 1. We should consider a corrective tongue extender.
The viewers accept it because the show never gives any reason not to. She finally said something at the end of the episode, Lisa's first word, after Homer had put Maggie to bed and left the room alone, with no one watching. Maggie removes her dummy and says one word.
Daddy.
The episode ended there, without her saying any additional words. The family spent the whole episode trying to get her to speak, and the moment it happened, there was no one by her side to hear her first words. That's wild. What makes Maggie's moment the most interesting on this entire list is that she spoke the second time, but no one was paying any kind of attention, which made her extremely angry. And she'll probably never talk again after that.
Maggie, talk.
I need to hear our stuff.
No one listen. Maggie, never talk again.
When we line up all of these characters together, what's interesting is how different all of their reasons for remaining silent are. Which one of these surprised you the most? Drop it in the comments because we genuinely want to know. And if there's a silent character that you think we missed, tell us below. Subscribe and we're going to be back very soon. Cheerio!